Wow! What an arm that kid's got, eh? Is a phrase that myself, Adam Shadid, Ibby, Spencer, and Michael have come across the most in our professional baseball careers.
The hype around how fast a pitcher can throw the ball is usually what impresses people the most and determines the skill of the player. Without a good throw, colleges and universities will take your resume and throw it in the shredder.
So, as a baseball player, one must ask themselves, what can I do to improve the speed of my throw? Well, based on our professional
And superior.
level of knowledge gained through our 30 years of playing top-tier baseball, I can guarantee you that your lifesaver has the name
Radar gun.
As you may have guessed, my elite colleagues and I will be talking to you today about the use of the radar gun in baseball. With this invaluable kinematics-based device, one can measure the speed at which they are pitching the baseball with stunning accuracy. This helps fellow baseball players keep track of the speed of their pitches, and it can bring reassurance as to whether their training is efficient or not. But it could also help them come to the realization as to whether they should alter their training routine. And it could also help a pitcher learn what technique works best for them.
Personally, I remember back in the day, before the innovation of technology, where the only way I could attempt to improve my throwing velocity was to whip it as hard as I could against the walls of my parents' basement, and I would measure the speed of my throws based on the depth of the dent I produced. Now, this obviously was not an accurate measurement, nor was it a good way to strengthen your relationship with your parents. Sorry, mama. But I know that you guys are going to be all thinking, all you skeptics out there, how does this device really work? How do I know it's accurate and what physics is involved? But I can assure you that this device is 100% accurate and it does use a lot of physics. How this device works is based on the principle of the Doppler effect.
So, what is this Doppler effect, and how does it have anything to do with how a radar gun measures the speed of a pitch? Well, first, we have to understand what a radar is. Radar is not actually a word, but rather an acronym. It stands for Radio Detection and Ranging. Radar works by emitting a radio wave, which always travels at a constant velocity, and detecting the frequency of the reflected wave. A radar gun works the same. For a radar gun, there is a radio wave that's sent through a narrow beam. The beam bounces off the baseball and is reflected back to the radar gun. Here's where the Doppler effect comes into play.
The Doppler effect is a change in frequency of sound, light, or some other type of wave as the origin and the observer move towards or away from each other. This is especially noticeable when an ambulance speeds by you on the road. As the ambulance approaches you, each new successive wave crest is produced at a location that is closer to the observer. These waves take less time to reach the observer, therefore increasing its frequency. As the ambulance drives away from the observer, each new successive wave is produced at a location that is farther away from the observer, therefore decreasing its frequency.
This concept works the exact same way with baseball. Now, the radar gun sends out a radio wave, which then bounces off the baseball and heads towards the radar gun again. As you can see in figure 2b, the reflected waves have a much higher frequency than the transmitted waves. However, if you want this to be perfectly accurate, you must have the radar gun directly aligned with the baseball. If it's not directly aligned with the baseball, then the radar gun will only pick up the speed of the baseball at a certain time and place, rather than its entire speed from the pitcher's mound to the catcher's glove.
From there, the radar gun's internal computer uses this following formula to calculate the speed of the pitch. C stands for speed of the light, F represents frequency emitted by the radar gun, and delta F is a difference in frequency between the emitted and reflected waves. So now, as you can see throughout this formula, the only thing that does not stay constant is delta F. So you could say speed is determined by the difference of the emitted and reflected waves.
So, to conclude, radar guns work on the principle of the Doppler effect. And the speed of a baseball can be calculated by finding the difference between the frequency of the transmitted wave and the frequency of the reflected wave.
And it's the final pitch of the game. Here it goes. And strike three, he's out!
How did he throw that so fast?
Wow, that clocked in at 100 miles per hour.
As you can see in that scenario, Spencer was able to strike me out since he had radar guns during training.
Baseball is a game of numbers. Radar guns provide numbers for schools and coaches to evaluate a player. Radar guns are the best way to do this because they are unbiased and show concrete evidence of a player's ability.
And this is why we chose to speak about radar guns, to spark light on a phenomenon that has changed the ways that baseball players train and baseball as a whole. Thank you.